What happens when a famous country singer shows up expecting a fun chat about his music and ends up in a heated argument with the talk show host? In just 31 seconds, a simple question about Blake Shelton's songs turned into a tense exchange that shocked viewers across the country. Last night, Blake Shelton came onto the set of The View, expecting a regular interview to promote his album. But instead of a warm welcome, he was pulled into a fiery argument with Whoopi Goldberg, one that quickly became one of the most talked about moments on TV this year. The studio lights shined brightly as Blake took his seat, flashing his usual big smile to the excited crowd. The audience was already buzzing, phones out and ready to capture every second. Joy Behar sat on one side, going through her notes, with a grin. Sunny Hostin checked over her questions, and Sarah Haynes adjusted her mic. The mood felt happy and full of energy. "We're back with country star Blake Shelton," Whoopi said to the cameras in her usual serious tone that fans have grown used to over the years. "Blake, thanks for being here," she said. "Thanks for having me, Whoopi." "Always glad to be here," he replied, relaxed and smiling. He crossed his legs and leaned back, totally calm. The first few minutes went just as expected. Joy asked about his tour, and Blake excitedly talked about being back on the road after a long time. Sunny asked about his life on the farm, and Blake shared funny animal stories that made everyone laugh. Sarah asked about his songwriting, and Blake gave honest answers about getting ideas from everyday life. Everything felt normal, until Whoopi changed the subject completely. "So, Blake," she began, her tone turning cooler, "you've been quiet about some big social topics. Don't you think stars should speak up?" Her words caught Blake off guard. His smile faded slightly as he realized the mood had shifted. This wasn't just about music anymore. The other hosts glanced at each other, picking up on the sudden tension. "Well, Whoopi, I've always felt my job is to entertain," Blake answered carefully. "When people come to my shows or hear my songs, they want to forget their problems. That's what I try to give them." But Whoopi didn't like that answer. She leaned forward, her face serious. "That sounds like you're avoiding the hard stuff. How can you ignore what's going on in the world?" Blake's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "I'm not ignoring anything," he said. "I just think plenty of folks already talk politics. Maybe what people really need is someone who reminds them of the good parts of life." "The good parts?" Whoopi repeated, raising her voice. "People are struggling. They're losing jobs. They can't afford doctors. And you want to sing happy songs?" The audience began to whisper. This wasn't the cheerful talk show they expected. Joy tried to lighten the mood with a joke, but Whoopi raised her hand, stopping her. "I think you're missing what I mean," Blake said, his voice thicker with his Oklahoma accent now. "Music has always brought people together. That's what it's about. When I perform, I see people from all walks of life singing the same lyrics. That's powerful." Whoopi shook her head. "How does staying silent help bring people together?" "Sounds like the easy way out." Blake grabbed the arms of his chair tightly. "With respect, Whoopi," Blake replied, "playing for people who work hard all week and just want a little fun isn't the easy way out." "Oh, so now you speak for the working class?" Whoopi snapped. "When's the last time you worried about rent or picking between food and medicine?" Her words stung, and Blake's face turned red. Sunny shifted in her seat, looking uncomfortable. Sarah looked down at her lap. Joy's mouth hung open in shock. "That's not fair, and you know it," Blake said, raising his voice. "Just because I've had success doesn't mean I forgot where I came from. I grew up in a trailer in Oklahoma. My mom worked 2 jobs to keep us fed. And now you live in a mansion and won't speak out for folks still living in trailers?" Whoopi replied quickly. "How convenient." Blake stood up, and the sound of his chair scraping across the floor echoed. The audience gasped. "You know what, Whoopi? I came here to talk about music and maybe make people smile. I didn't come here to be attacked." "Attacked?" Whoopi said coldly. I'm just asking you to think about using your voice to help others. If that feels like an attack, maybe ask yourself why. You twist everything I say, Blake answered, his voice shaking with anger. I never said I don't care about people's problems. I said I try to give them a break from those problems. That's not the same thing. Whoopi stood too, matching his energy. A break from real life doesn't fix anything. People need leaders, not entertainers hiding behind guitars. The other host sat frozen, not sure whether to stop it or let it continue. The cameras kept rolling as things got even more intense. Hiding behind my guitar? Blake said in disbelief. Lady, I've made music for 20 years, reaching millions. What have you been hiding behind? The whole studio went silent. Even the camera crew seemed to pause. Whoopi's eyes lit with anger after being called out so boldly. Excuse me, she said, slow and sharp. I've been fighting for what's right since before you even knew what a record deal was. Fighting? Blake laughed bitterly. You mean yelling at people who don't agree with you? Real brave, Whoopi. You're really making a difference. Joy finally jumped in, trying to calm things down. Guys, maybe we can take a breath and talk about Blake's new single? But Blake and Whoopi ignored her, still locked in a war of words. You don't know anything about me or what I've done, Whoopi said, glaring. I've won awards you've never even heard of. Blake shook his head, clearly amazed. So awards now give you the right to trap people on live TV? To judge them for just wanting to make people happy? Sunny tried to calm the room. Blake, I think what Whoopi means is that when you have a big platform, you have a big responsibility too. Blake quickly turned to her. Don't lecture me about responsibility, he snapped. I give jobs to hundreds of people. I give to charities. I help my community. Just because I don't make speeches about it doesn't mean I don't care. Nobody hears about your charity work because you don't talk about it, Sarah said softly, trying to ease the tension. Exactly, Blake replied, throwing his hands up. Because I don't do it for fame. I do it because it's the right thing. Whoopi rolled her eyes. How noble. The quiet hero who gets rich singing about trucks and beer. There you go again, Blake said, his voice rising. Putting down country music like it's not worth anything compared to whatever message you're trying to force today. I'm not putting down country music, Whoopi replied sharply. I'm calling you out for wasting your chance to really help people. Help? Blake repeated, stunned. Do you know how many people have told me my songs helped them through hard times? How many couples danced to my music at their wedding? How many families bonded at my concerts? But I guess none of that matters if I'm not shouting about politics on stage. The audience started reacting. Some clapped in support of Blake, others stayed quiet. The room felt split. Pretty songs don't change laws, Whoopi said coldly. They don't fix broken systems. And fiery interviews don't either. Blake shot back. When was the last time you changed anyone's mind by yelling at them on TV? Whoopi's face turned bright red. I give people the truth, she said. I teach them about what matters. You pressure people, Blake replied. You invite them on your show and then tear them down if they don't agree with you. Joy looked off stage, waving to producers, hoping for someone to cut to commercial. But things were too far gone to stop now. I ask hard questions, Whoopi said. More reporters should do that instead of letting stars just sell their stuff. Hard questions? Blake laughed bitterly. You didn't ask me one thing about my music, my tour, or my career. You went after me the second you realized I don't talk politics the way you want. Sarah tried again to bring things back. Blake, can you tell us about making your new album with your band? But Blake had had enough. You know what, Sarah? I'd love to talk about that. But your teammate here is more interested in tearing me down than learning what I do. I care about accountability, Whoopi said firmly. Which you clearly don't understand. Blake's face tightened with anger. I'm responsible to my fans, my family, and myself. I don't need your approval to live my life. Whoopi stepped closer, pointing her finger at him. Your fans deserve better than someone who won't speak up for what's right. My fans deserve respect. Blake fired back. Enough to let them think for themselves. Unlike you, I don't treat people like they're too dumb to have their own ideas. That hit hard. Whoopi's calm broke. Get out, she said quietly. Blake looked surprised. What? I said get out of my studio. Whoopi repeated, louder this time. If you can't handle a real talk about real issues, you don't belong here. The audience gasped again. Joy's mouth dropped. Sunny covered her face. Sarah just stared. Blake stood there for a moment, taking it all in. Then he gave a slow, calm smile. Your studio? He said. I thought this was a show for open ideas. Guess I was wrong. He reached down, unclipped his mic, and placed it on his chair carefully. You know what, Whoopi? You're right. I don't belong here. This isn't about sharing views or learning from each other. This is about you showing off how right you are by tearing down anyone who doesn't think like you. Blake turned to the camera. To everyone watching, I'm sorry you had to see this. I came here to talk about music and got pulled into a political trap instead. But I guess that's what happens when you expect kindness and get pushed into a fight. He began walking off set. But Whoopi had one last line to throw. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, she snapped. Blake turned around one final time. Real classy Whoopi. Always need to have the last word, huh? And just like that, Blake Shelton walked off the stage of The View, leaving behind a shocked audience, silent co-hosts, and one very angry Whoopi Goldberg standing alone in the spotlight.